If Bitcoin can truly become the universal settlement layer that it's shaping up to be, then $1 million per BTC is something we'll see soon. And in fact, we will blow past. In the crypto world, Bitcoin has always been king, but with significant limitations. However, right now, Bitcoin is evolving fast to overcome these limitations in ways that most people don't recognize. A series of recent breakthroughs is changing the game not just for Bitcoin, but for crypto as a whole. We're seeing the emergence of Bitcoin rollups, trustless bridges, and even the ability to run any code directly on Bitcoin. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a complete reimagining of what Bitcoin can be. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into the tech, the implications, and what it all means for Bitcoin BTC. Every blockchain, including Bitcoin, must face the scalability trilemma. The idea that you need to balance three things: scalability, security, and decentralization. Add more transactions, for example, or more complex transactions like smart contracts, and you begin to blow to the chain. And when you blow to the chain, you start pushing against and making sacrifices to decentralization and security. Every single blockchain since Bitcoin has tried to offer something that Bitcoin didn't: faster or cheaper transactions, privacy, smart contracts. And in so doing, they didn't actually solve the scalability trilemma. No, instead, what they did is they chose to make those sacrifices, sacrificing security and sacrificing decentralization. A great example of this is Solana. Solana have made it their mission to provide fast and cheap smart contract transactions. However, Solana, even though they achieved this, they achieved it at a cost. Regular people, for example, can't run a Solana full node. It's too big. And Solana, even when institutions are running its nodes, stops working quite frequently. As opposed to the chains that came after it, Bitcoin has remained the most simple, secure, reliable, and therefore trusted chain. However, Bitcoin is also perceived rightly as a limited network in terms of functionality. The real challenge is not just about scaling transactions, it's about expanding the functionality. While Bitcoin excels at storing and transferring value, it simply doesn't have complex operations like smart contracts or decentralized applications. And as the crypto ecosystem has evolved, Bitcoin has largely been left out of the innovation. The question now is, how can Bitcoin scale to handle more transactions while at the same time expanding to support new types of applications? How can it become not just a more efficient payment system, but a versatile platform for decentralized services? The first piece of the puzzle is a technology called rollups. Here's how it works. Instead of every single transaction being made directly on the Bitcoin blockchain, transactions get bundled together and they get settled as a single transaction. It's like carpooling. Instead of each person driving their own car and clogging up the highway, everyone hops up into one vehicle. So rollups let Bitcoin handle way more activity without getting bogged down. And what's more, because these transactions are not limited by Bitcoin throughput and its scripting language, you can bundle into these transactions much more complicated, expressive smart contracts. In other words, with Bitcoin rollups, Bitcoin is getting faster and cheaper, and it is also getting all the functionality that we know is possible in other chains, things like DeFi and privacy and real-world assets. And here's the kicker. Rollups inherit Bitcoin's rock-solid security. In other words, these transactions getting bundled together, they all have Bitcoin security, and this is an escape hatch from the trilemma. So how is this possible? This technology is made possible through two advances in cryptography. The first part of the puzzle was an upgrade to Bitcoin called Taproot. Taproot introduced the ability to bundle very large, complex cryptographic transactions into a single, simple Bitcoin transaction. And we've already seen its impact in things like ordinals and runes, bringing new token types to Bitcoin. The second part of the puzzle is the ability to verify a new kind of cryptographic proof called a zero-knowledge or ZK proof. They're called zero-knowledge proofs because they allow you to prove something is true without revealing the underlying knowledge. What ZK proofs do is open the door to verifying these roll-up transactions on Bitcoin without having to have all of those transactions and their underlying data on the chain. Bringing ZK proofs to Bitcoin is something that I'm actually actively engaged in researching and developing. And just a few weeks ago, my co-authors and we published a paper called BTC and Crypto showing that ZK is possible on Bitcoin today. No upgrades needed. Right now, we are seeing very rapid progress towards bringing rollups to Bitcoin. That means fast and cheap transactions, but it also means that we can now bundle those transactions into smart contracts on the rollups. And here's where things shift from evolutionary to revolutionary. Bitcoin is becoming more than just a decentralized ledger, more than just the internet for money. It is becoming a decentralized internet where anything can be written and all data can be stored and manipulated. And what does that mean? In simple terms, it means that developers can now deploy smart contracts for everything from DeFi to lending to NFT marketplaces directly in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And this is a seismic shift. For years, Bitcoin was seen as a one-trick pony, great for storing and transferring value, but not much else. If you wanted to build complex applications, you had to look to the newer, more flexible blockchains. But now, with the advent of new technologies like BitSnark and rollups, developers can write smart contracts in popular programming languages like Rust and Solidity and deploy them directly to Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin suddenly learned a whole new language, or several. Want to run an Ethereum smart contract in Bitcoin? You can do that in a Ethereum virtual machine compatibility layer. And the same goes for Solana's C-level or Cosmos Cosmwasm or Aptos Move language. Each of these foreign languages gets its own virtual machine, all running on top of Bitcoin. In effect, Bitcoin is becoming a universal settlement layer, a place where any blockchain's applications can be deployed, executed, and settled. It's like a global computer, capable of running any program from any chain. And the implications of this are staggering. Suddenly, all of the innovation happening in other corners of the crypto universe can be ported over to Bitcoin, and developers there can tap into Bitcoin's unrivaled network effects and user base while still using the tools and languages that they're familiar with. So what does all this mean for Bitcoin and BTC's price? In a word, everything. Look, we've seen Bitcoin go through multiple hype cycles, each one driven by a new narrative. First it was digital cash, then it was digital gold, then it was a hedge against inflation. But this is something different. This isn't just another use case or investment thesis. This is a fundamental reinvention of what Bitcoin is and what it can do. If Bitcoin can truly become the base layer of a new global financial system, the implications are hard to overstate. Every transaction, every contract, every financial application that currently runs on legacy rails, all of it could migrate to a Bitcoin-powered, blockchain-based infrastructure. In that world, Bitcoin isn't just a $1 trillion asset, it's the backbone of a $100 trillion global economy. It's the reserve currency not just for cryptocurrencies, but for the world. Now, other blockchains won't give up their market share without a fight, but already Bitcoin has a huge lead in market share. It's worth more than all of the rest of crypto combined. It is the institutional chain of choice, and now it's getting the ability to match and eventually even exceed the functionality of all other chains. That is a revolution. If Bitcoin can truly become the universal settlement layer that it's shaping up to be, then $1 million per BTC is something we'll see soon. And in fact, we will blow past it. We are living through a pivotal moment in Bitcoin's history. The old limitations are falling away and a new era of capabilities is emerging. Bitcoin is no longer just a store of value or a means of exchange. It's becoming a platform, an operating system upon which a new, decentralized economy can be built. It's becoming the universal settlement layer, the backbone of Web3. For investors, the implications are profound. Bitcoin's addressable market is expanding by orders of magnitude. Its utility is increasing exponentially, and its network effects are poised to go into hyperdrive. But it's not just the price action. It's about the vision, the idea of a financial system that is open, transparent, and accessible to all. A system where value can flow freely without friction or intermediaries. A system powered by code and not centralized institutions. That's always been the promise of Bitcoin, and it's a promise that is starting to be realized. So whether you're a developer, an investor, or just an observer who's curious, I encourage you to pay attention, because the future of money is being built block by block by block on Bitcoin.